дождя перекрыт эфир. Гей-прайд отправлен в сортир.
Prošloga vikenda sasvim slučajno sam naišla na najavu dolaska Pussy Riot u Zagreb. Čudila sam se kako događaj nije više najavljivan upravo zbog trenutka u kojem se nalazimo. Svatko tko se ikada bavio modernom Rusijom razumio je što su te žene izazivale i provocirale u monolitnoj, patrijarhalnoj, brutalnoj autokraciji.
Masha, thank you so much for being guest of N1 Television. Times are not, were never good, but this time are, worse than we could have imagined. Why did you decide to pursue this tour?
I decided to go to the tour because I want to make a statement that we, as a Pussy Riot, stand with Ukraine. We wrote an anti-war song. We put all of our thoughts and statement to the song against the war which Vladimir Putin started against Ukraine, and also this tour is our speech statement to European audience, because we, and me personally, I know that mostly all of the terrible things which are happening, in Russia for many years, 10 years at least, they are happening because these people, so-called people, I mean Putin and the whole system, they have money and they taking money from here. So the main thing is that Russia do not produce anything. They just take resources and sell it to the West, and then take money, and they use this money for invasion to other countries and to repress all the people who are not agree with the state. And about repressions, I can say a lot, because I'm in for a long time. I went through, during the last year, I went through my second criminal case that was open against me and a lot of people, because my case was because of the Instagram post. I wrote an Instagram post that I'm going to protest rally for support Alexei Navalny and political prisoners. That was after 1 year of the strictest house arrest, and besides house arrest, that was 6 times. 6 times I was arrested classically, and they put me to jail. And one thing which surprised even me, at December of 2021, just recently, I've been arrested, I think, for a 4th time, but the reason was quite unusual. Usually they write these police reports that person was resisting police, and that time they wrote that I was propaganding Nazism. That was really rare. They did not use this Nazi thing at all. So, of course, if we'll put my emotions to the side, because I was quite sad, because it's totally terrible. I've seen after that another activist been arrested, and they put them to jail for these 15 days, endless 15 days, for the same reason. So we start to discuss why they start to use this Nazi shit against the opposition, and just in 2 months, even less than 2 months, they start the invasion and call the whole Ukraine a Nazi state. And the very day when Putin announced the war, that was 21 of February, that was just exact day of our punk prayer, 10 years. I was in solitary cell in a detention center for the 5th time. And I was alone. I was listening radio, and that was that speech. So Even with my expectations and even with reading the news during January when the whole, European missions and diplomats, etc., were being took out from Kiev, I was totally shocked. And in 2 days the invasion started. So I decided to go to the store to tell about all of that, which is happening right now in my country, and to stop it.
Princip borbenog ženskog zaradio im je robijanje u Sibiru, stalne prijetnje i pritvore. Bile su dio globalno poznate liste Rusa koje se zatvaralo, trovalo, batinalo i pratilo. Marija Maša Ljohina posljednja je od kolektiva Pussy Riot pobjegla iz Rusije. Prerušena u dostavljača hrane. Deaktivirala je nožnu narukvicu koju je nosila u kućnom pritvoru. Preko Bjelorusije stigla je u Litvu, a iz Berlina početkom svibnja krenula je na turneju po Europi.
Здесь без приса чудовищная весна решила настать измененная и ненужная конституция. Нам пора совершить революцию, пусть Москва горит, мир на крови. Это не смыть, нечем крыть дохуя земли, но забрали Крым, прости, хотя это не простить.
What is this tour about? It's anti-war, but it has some interesting word inside. It's revolution.
Yes, basically this show is based on Masha's book that I edited. So this is her story. We're using her example, her story from the first action with Pussy Riot till the last day in prison. So basically our goal and our message is to inspire people around the world. Doesn't matter where they're from, who they are. Giving this example, we want to show that, yeah, you have a voice. And you have a right to say no, to protest. And this year, of course, we stand with Ukraine. We raise money for Ukrainian hospital in Kiev. Our mission, is to help Ukraine and to support Ukraine and to remind all media about what's going on in Ukraine, about the war that Putin started there, about war crimes that Russian army is committing there. And it's very important to do it in the West, especially now, because a lot of money that, basically almost every money for gas and oil come from the West. And it's very important to talk about European hypocrisy and Western hypocrisy when they deeply concerned about the situation in Ukraine or about the annexation of Crimea, but then again they avoid sanctions, they buy gas and oil in rubles. Even now, it's been 3 months of the war, and they still, in the European Parliament, they're still talking about how to avoid sanctions and to still buy gas and oil, because basically, and it's very dangerous because you're becoming dependent on Russia in terms of resources. And I understand we all need gas and oil. Yes, of course. I mean, some countries that are not ready to switch immediately to green energy. But this is very dangerous ignorance, because otherwise you need to deal with terrorists.
Заявляя о принятых сегодня решениях, уверен в поддержке граждан России.
Нет войне! Нет войне! Нет войне! Нет войне!
Что вы делаете? Как так можно? Вы что?
Требую незамедлительно покинуть место проведения мероприятия.
Concerning all of your experience, and not just your experience, because you're the prominent group, the whole world knows about you, but concerning the situation at the moment in Russia itself, how would you describe it? Because from the one side, you have huge propaganda machinery, disinformation, which we all know was working before the war and now during the war, of course, because the war is a playground for propaganda. Mm-hmm. How would you describe the potential within Russia to think of itself for the time after Putin? You are activists. Navalny is, you know, the opposition. There are people who are brave to speak up. Some ordinary people are, of course, afraid because fear is normal human feeling. So how would you think of, you know, Russia's future at the moment? Because we all know, you know, what Ukraine wants, who started the war. These things are clear. But how do you see, after all that you did personally?
It should be a tribunal. It should be a tribunal, and after that we can think about the future. And I'm not shy to compare it with Nazi Germany. It's not possible to go further without the court and without tribunal and without naming all of that crimes which were done. But also I want to speak about the people, because we have new criminal case each day. Each day we have criminal case, searches, arrests, and this is not for 2 years, it's much longer. But even in these conditions, people are doing things. It's not just organized big protest, but it's very brave gestures of not known people, for these people doing this for first time, and they do not kind of declare it as an action, they just go and do this. For example, we have 12 recruiting war centers burned in different parts of Russia. Just people who did it, they are not activists, not politicians. People probably just did this thing for the first time, but they did it. A lot of people, especially like journalists who want to continue and to work and to cover the war and to cover the protests, they should leave, because we have a change. I mean, even in these terrible conditions which already existed during these 10 years, and especially 2021, after the war they added new criminal articles. For example, it's illegal to call the war, and it's illegal to repost the Western news. It's illegal to post photos from Bucha, from Mariupol, to write anything about crimes of Russian army. So if you do this, it's considered as a fake. And for the fake, for posting the fake, it's from 5 years to 15 years. It's a lot. And you can do this only one time, because after that you will be arrested and they put you to prison. I have an amazing example of Sasha Skachelenko, who is a musician, feminist, amazing girl. She was doing a protest which is a part of the feminist anti-war resistance protest. She was changing in supermarkets price tags. For example, you have like at supermarkets this small price tags, so she put the bigger number, like 5,000 with big letters, and then like 5,000 people were killed in Mariupol for what? She was arrested for this fake article, and now minimum sentence she will get is 5 years in prison. I have a lot of other examples, and as I said before, they appear every day, and through our concerts we trying to speak about them. We're showing the photos, after in public discussions we talking about the cases, and I mean, it's just unfair, because when I went to prison, to classical prison during first Pussy Riot case, that was so big international attention, and of course all of us, 3 of us, we didn't feel ourselves alone. We've been so, I don't know, we felt the support every day, so that was easy. Of course that was totally unfair. That was, I mean, physically hard, because it's prison, but the support is the main thing. And people who are going to prison now, they don't have any support.
And no one talks about it internationally at all.
Yes, because Russian propaganda put this terrible idea that there are 80% of the people who are supporting the war and special operation, they call it, and there is no people who are protesting, but they are. It's thousands of them already in prison, and a lot of people facing prison, and a lot of people facing prison in different parts of the world. And a lot of my colleagues, they left Russia to help Ukraine and just to do things, because if you are in prison, you should have a team to support you. And they decide that this is not the moment.
But circumstances are different. It was hard at that time, what you said, when you went to prison for the first time. Now is even worse. Do you see yourself ever going back to Russia? I know everyone is asking you about your flooding, but you know, you can just say a few sentences. But after this escape, I don't know how you call it, do you see yourself going back?
I think that we should first now talk about Ukraine and to make this war stopped. And when I say we should stop the war, I want to be clear. I want Ukraine to win, not just like stop the war
As it is, yeah.
As it is, because it's an invasion. They already almost took like 3 regions. It cannot be stopped like just this. Ukraine should win. Why? Because if Ukraine will not win now, they will go further. They will just celebrate this amazing took off, you know, territories and then go further. And the sad thing that I was talking about this after 2014 for 100 times. After annexation of Crimea, that they will not stop. It's not just like a question of Crimea and so-called referendum. This is imperialistic shit which will go through and go.
Ukraine was the first country which recognized an independence of Croatia. So thank you again. Half of the money from our t-shirts we donate to Ukrainian hospital, which is based in Kiev, which treats children who've been attacked by Russian bombs and Russian army.
How important for the future is the communication? Because what we saw after Putin's aggression, that a lot of people from Russia who were activists, who were, you know, against the regime, who were fighting all the time, who fled, who are abroad somewhere in diaspora, are now being cut off in a way. How important it is to communicate, to see this other Russia, to see there is future, because, you know, geography is there. When the war is over, you will still be there, Russia will be there where it is.
It's very important to understand that Russia is not Putin and it's us. It's a lot of people flew Russia, but for example, as many independent journalists who flew to Lithuania or Georgia, they're still doing their journalism. They just couldn't stay more in Russia because of the new laws, because all media now, independent media in Russia, are considered foreign agents or unwanted organizations or extremist organizations. But they're not, you know, escaping Russia and they are silent now. No, they continue doing their journalism or activism. They influence politics. They help other people. They raise money for Ukrainians. They help a lot, and of course I believe that community in general, communities are stronger than any government, so it's very important to communicate, of course, and to not forget that it's not their Russia. The fact that they occupied our country doesn't mean that we are not Russians anymore, and they are right Russians because they stayed. Yeah, this is how it is.
Russia without Putin?
Yes, of course.
What kind of?
We are Russia without Putin. We are Russia without Putin. It's not a question of territory, it's a question of people who changed. It's people who changed the country and who are the country. And these so-called people who are now in the power, they occupy the country. So I do not plan, I mean, I consider myself, of course, like as a cosmopolite, but I'm a holder of Russian citizenship. I'm Russian. Actually, I was born in Soviet Union, but I mean, I'm Russian, and I'm not. I just want to say that there are Russians who are against this war and who will fight against this war until the end. And I think, will be just kind of unfair and hypocritic to say that, you know, I crossed the border and this is not mine anymore. It doesn't work like this for me.
Мы объехали за неделю 20 студий, одинаковые офисы, белоснежные улыбки. Мы хотим сделать фильм о революции.
А какой такой революции?
О русской революции.
Какая же у вас революция?
О русской
I saw the start of your tour in Berlin with the sentence on the screen behind you, "Where is the revolution?"
Yeah.
You know, Russia's history is this history of very hard transfers of systems and very, you know, big actions that happened in the recent history. So what does that sentence mean in your concept of this anti-war tour?
For me personally, I believe in personal revolution, and our concert is a call for each person who goes there to change. Just not be, you know, out of politics, not interested in political, I don't know, things. It's just understand that each of us have a right to change things, and each of us is responsible for what is going on. If we're talking about the concert and our message. If we're talking about Russian history, you're right. It's quite dark, and especially 20th century, we didn't have any reflection of what Russia actually went through. For example, in Germany, that was a process of denazification, and that was a huge reflection in society about concentration camps. In Russia, it just started in 90s. That was just very small period, and by the way, economically, that was very hard period, because like poverty, criminal, like a lot of things, and it was just started. For example, on Lubyanka Square, the main square where the main KGB building, now FSB building, exists, that was a huge monument of Dzerzhinsky, the head of Cheka, which is like proto-FSB. So they crushed the monument at 90s and put the Solovetsky stone, the symbol of the whole victims of Gulag. And that was a main gesture, but that was not only one gesture. In the whole Russia, the reflection started. Memorial Center, for example, who are my heroes, were working really hard to find the names, the bodies of Gulag prisoners. Yuri Dmitriev, for example, who is now in prison and probably will die in prison, put the whole life. He found 6,000 names in one shot polygon in Karelia. They stopped everything. They just crushed all the work. Memorial now is like almost extremist organization. They shut it down. They open new monuments of Stalin, they open new monuments of Dzerzhinsky. I personally have seen the portraits of Dzerzhinsky in police stations where I've been arrested. Stalin is a hero of Putin. Not the hero, but let's say an orienteer, yeah? He wants to be like Stalin, with some villas and palaces and 2 lovers, actually, with like hidden children. And without the process of reflection, this is kind of no way further. It's not possible.
In our show also we talk about political prisoners. They're on the screen and they want everyone to see that these people behind the bars, and when it will be another Western journalist asking me, why Russia is not protesting? Why so many people protesting? Are you ready to go to jail just because of one post for 15 years? So this is the answer. But Russia is protesting. We have so many initiatives now. We have feminist anti-war resistance movement. We have anti-war movement. We have new symbols and new way to protest. And I think civil society now is rising, and it's this bullshit about 80% supporting war because it's part of the Russian propaganda that also, as I see, working in the West, because it's a lot of journalists asking me the same question, like, oh, it's 80%. No, it's not 80%. Yeah, so I don't know about my plans. We have tours now, I think, and also about the bravery. I think now we all should be brave, because if we will not articulate our position, we will regret this for the rest of our life. So sometimes, and we're all human beings, and we have fear. We are afraid sometimes, and we're normal people. We are not like this us and this is ordinary Russians. But if you feel this urge to do something, to protest, if you feel that you're against this war, you should do something. Otherwise, you really will regret, and you will lose yourself. And this is the scariest thing. Then, you know, I mean, I don't want to compare it to prison or anything, but we do everything to help these political prisoners. If we talk about Russia now, yeah. To help them get media attention, to talk about them, to be more, I don't know, safe, it's a bad word, it's not really relevant, but to show them our support, to show that they are not alone, and I admire them, their courage and bravery, and you know, they don't have such fame as Pussy Riot, so are they ordinary people or not? So a lot of people now that are participating and engaging in politics or anti-war movements and actions, they weren't activists before. So this is how, you know, as you said about them, like ordinary people that weren't engaging in politics became activists.
And for the end, Pussy Riot, you have a strong feminist from the beginning agenda. We all see these strong men deciding our fates in politics, in the army. Do you really think that you and I, you are a lot of younger than me, will see future ruled by women, which will maybe be different than this reality we're living now?
In the West, it's already changing, switching more to more like diverse image, like Finland or Sweden, a lot of examples. But definitely all these war narratives, you can't really separate them from the patriarchy in general, because all what we see is the same patriarchal narrative, like it's a strong man, like heroes that goes to war and everything. And in Ukraine we see a lot of women that went to the front line to defend their country. Definitely I hope for I believe that the future is female. And actually in Russia I'm so happy to see so many feminist initiatives. For example, feminist anti-war resistance movement. It's a lot of amazing women, and you see them on protests and in demonstrations. Actually now the situation in Russia in terms of like protest is like it's super female. It's super female, and I think this is the sign that, yeah, it should be more diverse, and also you should we should mention that women are more vulnerable in the war always than they are more vulnerable than the rest of the group of people. We heard a lot about rapes and even when some women escaping and becoming refugees, I've heard some stories that they were being raped even in the West because they are like weak, and they are using this. Using their weak position now because they're refugee. So it's horrible, and the future is 100% female.
Mi smo revolucija, revolucija je u svakome od nas. U očima Ljohine nema straha. Ona samo ide. Krhko, malo tijelo majke 15-godišnjaka, Sibir, zatvor, ispitivanja, privođenja, suđenja. Narukvica za praćenje koja je i dalje, iako onesposobljena, na njezinoj nozi jer je ne može skinuti. Vesice na cipelama koje su je uzeli u pritvoru više nema. Ugurala je umjesto njih vlažne maramice koje su na cipelama ostale. Moj snimatelj Kruno spušta se u čučanj kako bi ih snimio naslonjene na zid ispred ulaska u Aljohininu sobu.
Came to this Slovenia-Croatia border and then she was arrested again.
Od jutra pa do susreta s novinarima cijeli dan na telefonu. Na prelasku granice sa Slovenijom hrvatska policija pritvara prijateljicu grupe Pussy Riot koja se nalazi na crvenoj turkmenistanskoj potjernici. Politička disidentkinja, kažu, koja je već odslužila 6 godina u ruskom zatvoru. Dok ovo montiramo, i dalje je u Remetincu.
Postoji jedna stara tjeralica Interpolova od države Turkmenistan koja je još uvijek na snazi, iako je moja klijentica osuđena u Rusiji povodom tog zahtjeva Turkmenistana i odrobijala tamo punih 6 godina. Prema tome ne može biti ponovno niti suđena, niti izručena, niti može biti ponovno na odsluženju kazne koju je već odslužila. Radi se o političkom progonu nje. Njezin otac je uhapšen kao politički oponent davnih dana, ubijen je u zatvoru. Nakon toga je krenula hajka na moju klijenticu. Ona je osuđena u Rusiji, tamo je odležala 6 godina zatvora, dakle kaznu u cijelosti izvršila i treba biti slobodna. Ne može se ta Interpolova, dakle ta tjeralica bi trebala biti maknuta sa liste. Zašto nije? To je pitanje za neka druga tijela.